Hello and welcome, I'm your Code Monkey. So the App Store is currently running the Best of Summer sale. All the top assets are currently discounted. There are tons of awesome assets on sale for every possible use case, but some of them are situational. For example, I love the Cinti assets, but if your game is not meant to be in low poly, then it's not much use to you. Or what about Final Like Hey? This is an awesome inverse kinematics tool, but again, not every game needs inverse kinematics. Rayfire is another super awesome one. Super impressive destruction, but again, not every game is going to have destruction. So Unity sponsored this video to do something interesting. Basically, I try to find what are the top 5 assets that are useful for pretty much every single game. Whether you're making 2D or 3D games, whether it's complex or simple, whether they are shooters, platforms, RPGs, whatever. No matter what you're working on, I believe these 5 assets will be insanely useful. Starting off with Hot Reload. This is one that I've used some great things about for many years, but I've only used it for the first time right now. The purpose is very simple. It lets you modify and recompile code without ever leaving play mode. So this can enable you to iterate upon your games much faster. For example, here I have my upcoming free course. It's a course on making a really nice lunar lander game. Here, if I go ahead and I touch the terrain, as soon as I touch it, yep, there you go, I've got a game over. But let's say right now I was testing the game and I didn't want this to happen. Let's say I wanted to disable that logic just for now. So while the game is playing, I've got Hot Reload open. And over here I can open up my code and, for example, let's go down and find the script that handles the collisions. So here it is, the onCollision enter 2D. So while the game is playing, I can just go here and add an early return. And as soon as I press on save, yep, there you go, Hot Reload already compiled the changes. Here it says the reload finished, the render the onCollision into 2D function. And now if I try again, if I go ahead and I touch the terrain to see what happens, and if there you go, no, nothing happens, the game no longer pauses, it no longer stops playing. So yep, I was able to edit some pretty complex behavior, I was able to edit the code itself without ever exiting play mode. Or for example, let's say that I run out of fuel, so I go, yep, there you go, no fuel, I can't move around, so yep, there you go, now it's messed up. Normally I would have to stop playing, play again, and that would obviously reset the whole state of the entire game. But over here, using Hot Reload, I can just, again, go over here, edit the code directly. So let's go, for example, over here on Fixed Update, and let's set the fuel amount to a fixed amount. So set it to like 1F like this. Let's save it, and there you go, Hot Reload over there. Yep, reload finished. And over there I can see, yep, I do have 10% of fuel. And if I move around, and yep, there I go, this worked. So yep, without having to quit the game, I was able to play again, modify the fuel, and now I can continue testing. So this is really awesome. Normally, to make this work, I would have needed to have pre-prepared beforehand all of these sorts of things. I would need to have some kind of debug menu in order to add the fuel to a certain amount, add some kind of debug key in order to disable the collisions, maybe make some kind of boolean that was exposed over here in the editor. But importantly, I would have had to make that ahead of time. Whereas over here, I was just playing, and as I was playing, I figured out some things that would be nice to have, and I really just went into the code, made my changes, it compiled automatically without exiting play mode. Yep, there you go, now I've got no collisions on the terrain, and I've got infinite fuel. So yep, that's super useful for iterating, and same thing for really just editing values. If you define some values as serialized fields, then you can just easily modify them in the editor. But if you don't, like for example here on this field for the force that is applied to the lander, for this force over here, this one I did not make it a serialized field, I just make it a local variable right here. The reason for that is because afterwards this is never going to change, so there's no point to exposing it in the editor. And like this, if I want to play with this value, it would be tricky. Like the first time that I came up with this value, I had to test and retest multiple times in order to come up with the actual value. But right now I can easily modify it. So let's say 700, maybe that's way too little. So let's put it like 1200. I save it and go back, and yep, there you go, we're already reloaded. And as I move, yep, there you go, now the ship is moving much, much faster. So yep, even for iterating on values that are not directly exposed in the editor, again, that's the core thing. The difference between I have to pre-prepare this ahead of time versus I can just edit the code right now and see the changes. With this, I can easily go here, modified values, save, come back, and if there I go, I can find the perfect values. This is also super useful for debugging. For example, in this game, I've got a system for picking up some cargo. So if I move around and I hover over this area, after a while, yep, there you go, I'm picking up some cargo. And now if I go on that one, I should be able to drop off the cargo. But right now, it's not working, the progress bar is not increasing. So let's say this is a bug, let's say I don't know why this is happening. First of all, if the cargo touches over the terrain, yep, there you go, it still blows up. So again, over here, I can just go on the cargo lander, over here on the collisions, let's just make that not happen. And there you go, just like that, I've disabled that one, I can test again, I can hold on, pick up the cargo, and as the cargo touches somewhere, yep, there you go, I can now keep testing, okay, great. So now for that bug, in order to figure out, I can just go over here onto my cargo area script, and here I can basically just add a bunch of logs everywhere. So let's add a log here, then another log here, just see if it reaches this point, then another one here to see if it gets to this point, another one here, see if it gets to this point, then here if it gets to this point, over here on this point, and over here on this point. So just adding a bunch of logs just to see where exactly the code is stopping. Again, I'm trying to solve the bug of why this crate is not opening up this door. So I just save the changes, and I go back, and there you go, all the changes, those have been updated. And now I can go, and as soon as I touch it, I should be able to see some logs. And there you go, I've got a bunch of logs, and I can now easily read through them. So right now I can see, yep, okay, so the code is running until number 7, which means, yep, I can see, okay, so the code is stopping here. So basically it's because the cargo SO that I'm carrying is not the one that drop-off point is expecting. So basically the issue here is that I'm not using the right key. So I'm just going to easily test that out. So I'm going to drop a cargo area, make this one a drop off cargo area so I can drop that one, and then make another one for picking up the actual key. So for that one, make it a pickup, and for that one, pick up the key red. And now again, I'm doing all of this without ever exiting flow mode. I'm testing out and seeing everything works. So I go there and let's see if I can drop this one off. And let's see. And yep, dropped off the cargo. Now let's see if I can pick up a key. Just go over there for a little bit, and yep, there you go, picking up the key. Now I'm go there and I try to see, does this work? And yep, there you go, it is indeed working. Picks up the key, and after a while, there you go, door opens. All right, awesome. Again, so the whole point is I discovered the bug. I very easily just went to the code, added some logs in order to figure out how can I track what the bug is. I figured out the issue, then once again I tested again and I figured out, okay, this works. Importantly, I did all of that without ever having to exit play mode. So you can see how awesome this is for speeding up iteration speed. Whatever game you're making, this is going to be super useful. This is definitely a super useful asset. No matter what game you're working on, this is going to be insanely useful. The next must-have asset is feel. This is an asset that helps you easily add a ton of polish to your games. The difference between a polished and unpolished experience is pretty massive. And again, every single game, regardless of genre, regardless of what type it is, every single game is going to need through the polish stage. So this asset is always going to be super useful. For example, here's the bounce demo. If I just press on the key, yep, there you go, it just jumps up. As you can see, it's pretty boring. The character really just jumps up. There's really nothing to it, just super basic. And now here's the version with feedback. So I do the exact same action, go down, and there you go, it looks quite a bit more impactful. So the exact same action can look drastically different. One of them looks very unpolished, very boring, and the other one looks super awesome. And this asset feel is what helps you go from this to this. This one also has some of the best demos that I've seen. It's got a massive amount of demos showcasing pretty much everything. For example, here the technical demo. On this one, if I go ahead and disable pretty much all the feedbacks. So here's the scene as I shoot. Yep, there you go, that's it, super basic, literally just looks very unimpactful, nothing at all. Whereas now if I enable all the feedbacks, if I enable all of these, and now I test, and if there you go, that looks quite a bit more impressive. It went from pretty boring to really impactful, again, just by adding some feedbacks. So really just think to yourself, if you're making a shooter game, which one do you think is best? Which one do you think that players will love? Which one do you think gets more wishlists and more sales? Is it this version over here? Very boring, no impact, nothing whatsoever. Or this one over here? Lots of impact, lots of lights, lots of actions, looks super cool. So the answer really is obvious. And this asset is also one that is super easy to use. So here I am back in my own landing project, and as I go down and I land on the goal, yep, there you go, got a nice successful landing message. But this whole thing, this window, this one shows up instantly. That's a bit boring, would be better to have some nice animations. So I can just go onto this window on the Land UI, over here on the container. I'm just going to add the MMF player component. And over here on add new feedback, I can add all kinds of feedbacks. I can modify all kinds of things, so I can play some animations. I can do things with audio, things with cameras. I can play around the game object, set it as enable, disable, and so on. I can spawn some particles. I can pause time. I can mess around with post-processing, do some strings, text mesh pro, really anything. For example, one that is always very fun is over here on transform, the squash and stretch. This one basically just expands in one way and then the other. So I can just add this one, then I can just set the target. So the target is going to be this one right here. Let's squash it from Y to X. And for the settings, let's say 1.5 like that. Then on the script that shows up that window, over here just add a field of type MMF player. And then down here, whenever I show the window, just play the feedbacks. So as I go and I touch down and I land, and if there you go, now the window looks quite a bit more interesting as opposed to just spawning out of nowhere. By the way, here on this one, it's also super easy to just preview the effects. So over here, while the game is playing, over here I got the play button, and if I can basically see what exactly these effects will look like. So it's super easy to iterate and find what are the exact values over here that you prefer. And I can add some more effects. So let's say, for example, post-processing, let's add a bloom effect. This one requires a setup, so let me stop playing and add the new setup. Just click on the automatic shaker setup, and that is basically just going to automatically set up over here the global volume to make sure that it has this component. Then over here, let's just make it glow an insane amount, so let's just go by 200. So now if I go, and if I land all the way down, if there you go, there's a nice little glow. So I can test it out, and again, play out with all the values. Then let's say I also want some camera shake, so I'm going to add new feedback. Let's go over here on camera, and let's make it a Cinemachine impulse source. So I have that one, then I just have to create the impulse source component. So let's make a new empty game object for the impulse source. Over here, let me add the impulse source component. Yep, there you go. Let's make it using legacy and using the 6D shake. And over here on Cinemachine camera, just make sure it has the impulse listener component. And then over here on the MM feedbacks, just drag that reference. Then if I want, I can play over here with velocity, with intensity, but let's see. So here as I go and as I land down over there on the landing pad, and if there you go, there's a nice screen shake, a bit too intense, but yep, there you go. So in just a few seconds, I made this simple window look quite a bit more interesting. Feel definitely is a really awesome asset, super useful for polishing your games and making them look super juicy, which again, since every single game needs polish, then this tool is useful for every single game. I've made a fully detailed review on this asset if you want to learn more. But as you can see, it's pretty easy to use and super awesome. The next must-have asset is the asset inventory. As you pick up more and more assets over time, then this tool becomes even more necessary. It basically lets you keep track of all of your assets. So here I've got all of the packages that I own, all the things that I've bought over the many years. And importantly, I can search inside each one of these packages in order to find something specific. So for example, over here on search, I'm going to search, let's say that I need some kind of pistol. So I'm going to search for a pistol. And there you go, I'm going to find a bunch of them. So there's one over here, looks realistic. One over there also looks nice and realistic. That one looks a little bit sci-fi. So I can search for all of these. Then over here, obviously, I can filter them for prefabs, meshes, and so on. So I can find some of these. And now if I want just this one pistol, normally you would have to import the entire package. You would import the entire thing, which possibly might even contain thousands of prefabs when you just need one of them. But over here with the asset inventory, you can literally just pick up one. So I can just click on import on this one, and basically it's going to import literally just that one asset and nothing else. And if there you go, it imported, and here it is in my project. So yep, there you go. I've got that one. It just imported exactly the things that it needed. So I've got the textures, I've got the prefab, the meshes, materials, and so on. See up here, I've got the pistol. I can push it around somewhere. And if there you go, I've got my nice pistol that I just imported. And again, no need to import the entire package, literally just one asset, and I just got one asset. So just like this, you can already see how insanely useful this tool is. The more assets you have, the more useful this becomes. Also, by the way, fun fact, over here, if you see all of these assets, it shows all the things that are on your account, all the things that have been added. And just for fun, if you select all of them, then over here on the right side, you can see how much it actually makes. So how many items, what exactly is the size on disk, and importantly, what exactly is the price. Now, of course, I bought many assets over the years, but a lot of them were at discount or during bundles, so I'm pretty sure that I did not spend this amount, but still, it's a pretty fun number to look at. An important thing is over here, so asset store and other sources. So this one lets you import assets, lets you do all the searching, all this thing, not just on the asset store, but also things outside of it. For example, here I've got a folder with a bunch of assets that I picked up on various Humble bundles. So inside I've got tons of stuff, so I've got all the packages, all of them just like this. And using this tool, I can also search within these. Over here under settings for the additional folders, over here I can add whatever extra folders I want. Meaning all these features, the searching, the unpacking just one specific item, all of those work on everything you've got on the asset store, but also all of these external things. So if you, like me, buy a bunch of stuff on, for example, Humble bundles or different stores than just the asset store, then this asset is also insanely useful. So yep, that's why this one is definitely one of the most useful assets on the asset store. And of course, all this is no matter what game you're making. Whatever game you're making on, you're going to need to work with some assets. And this will definitely help you save a ton of time on finding the right assets and keeping your project clean so you don't have to import thousands of things that you are not going to use. I've also made an asset review on this one asset, so definitely go ahead and watch this one to see this in more detail. The next must-have asset is the text animator. So this is another excellent one, and again, useful for literally every single game. Maybe there are some super rare games that don't have any text at all, but I would say 99% of games are going to have some text of any kind. And if you have text at all, if so, then this tool helps you polish that text much easier. You have all kinds of real interesting effects you can add to your text, and you can add them in very easy ways. This is another one that also has a bunch of awesome demos. And importantly is how this tool over here, you can just add some nice little tags on the text, and that is how you can add those effects. So literally just add those tags as rich text, and then as you play, all of that becomes nice and animated, so you've got a nice text-write effect, and then you've got all of these interesting effects. So that one bouncing up and down, that one teleporting all over, that one rotating, all of those. And yep, you can play around those and very easily add all of these really cool effects, very simply by just adding some tags in the text. So like I said, super easy to use. For example, here in my Lunar Lander game, over here I've got that window, so the land UI. And on that one, I've got a title text mesh. So over here, if I go and I do a successful landing, as soon as I land, yep, there you go, that text over here, that one just says that. It's very static. It definitely would look a little bit better if this one was moving a little bit. It's a small, subtle thing, but it definitely does help. So over here, I'm just going to find that object. So on my hierarchy, here it is, the title text mesh. So I'm going to go into this one, and I'm going to add a component and search for the text animator. Yep, there it is. Just add this component. And then I can either add those tags directly over here in the text, or then down here, I can go inside of that component. Yep, here I've got the appearances, disappearances, and behaviors. So I can play around these. For example, over here on the behaviors, I'm going to add two of them. So one of them will be the increase behavior, and the other one will be a wave behavior. And I'm going to set the amplitude to something a bit smaller, like 0.1. And this one also has really nice editing in preview mode. So over here, I can click the play button, and I can see, yep, there you go. Look at that. That's exactly what it looks like. So very simple and easy way to add a bit of polish, a bit of animation over here onto this text. And now if I hit on play, so here I am, I'm going to land down as soon as I land. Yep, there you go, I've got a nice window with all those polish effects, and now the text is also nice and animated. So yep, again, in just a few seconds, I took some text that looked very boring, very static, and made it nice and animated. The game is objectively better now by just using a tiny bit of effort. So yep, as long as your game has any text of any kind, if so, then Text Animator is an awesome tool that can really help polish your game. The next must-have asset is the all-in-one Sprite Shader. So this one, alongside with the sister asset, this one over here, the all-in-one 3D shader, Both of these are absolutely excellent. If you have a fully 2D game, then the all-in-one Sprite Shader, that is all you need. And if you have a 3D game, then this one basically uses the same thing. So it applies a bunch of effects onto your meshes, either your 3D mesh or your 2D sprites, and you can very easily take something that looks very boring and make it look really cool. Then even if you do have a fully 3D game, if so, then chances are your UI, your interface, something like that is going to be in 2D. So the all-in-one Sprite Shader, this one's going to be useful for literally every single game. This is another one that also has an excellent demo. So over here you can very easily see all of the various effects that are included over here in the Sprite Shader. You can add all of these effects out individually or combine them. So you can see all of the various UV effects, all of the color effects, all of the effect combinations, so nice burn, hologram, and so on. So yep, this one really has a ton of really cool effects. And this is another one that is also super easy to use. So back in my Lunar Lander game, over here, let's say over there for the cargo area, I want this one to look a little bit more interesting as opposed to just being a static sprite. So instead of that, I'm going to go inside that background. And over here, I'm going to add the component, the all-in-one, add all-in-one shader. And if there you go, it adds this component. So it's going to do that. And it's going to add this one with the custom shader. And over here, I've got just a bunch of checkboxes. So I can play around all of these to add all kinds of effects. So this one, for example, let's add a hologram effect. If there you go, that looks nice. Okay, cool. Now let's also, over here on the UV effects, let's make a round wave. Okay, I think that looks nice, that looks cool. Let's add a little bit of distortion, so a warp distortion. That makes it a little bit more wiggly on the sides. Maybe add the scale by a little bit more. And maybe also add a twist. And there you go, look at that, that looks quite cool. So that area over there, instead of just being a solid color, instead of that, now it looks a little bit better. That's quite nice, that's cool. Let's also make these pickups look a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to go inside the film pickup, and over here I got the sprite. So again, same thing, I just add the all-in-one shader component. Then this one I just had some simple effects. So over here I just had the shake, so just that one shakes it around a little bit. And importantly, I added over here the hit effect. So this one basically makes it super glow and then go back and down. An important thing is over here how all of these properties, all of these can be animated. So I made a simple animation, literally just an animation clip component. And over here I just recorded an animation, basically just starts off, first of all starts off on 0, then becomes really bright, and then goes down to 0 again. So basically just a small flash every once in a while. So let's save it, go back, and here I am, and there you go, the fuel is nice, moving around a little bit, it's a bit flashy, and over there, that area also looks quite nice. So once again, in just a few seconds, I made these little sprites. I made these look quite a bit more polished, quite a bit more interesting. Just a few seconds, very little effort. And as a bonus, here is a final must-have asset. It's my own CodeMonkey Toolkit. I'm putting it as a bonus instead of the top 5 just because obviously I'm biased. This is a collection of tools and elements to help you make games better and faster. But while I am biased, I have generally used all of these tools in order to make my own games for over 10 years now. So these tools, they have already been validated in production. Now, some of these will only be useful for certain specific games. For example, over here, the grid system. This one is super useful, super awesome. But not every game is going to need a grid system. Same thing for the interaction system. This one is really cool. I can go around, I can interact with all kinds of objects, so that's cool. But again, not every single game is going to need an interaction system. However, many of these tools are super useful in literally every single game. For example, one of my favorites is this one, the function timer class. This is super simple and super useful. It basically just helps you run a function after some time, so click on this and after 0.3 seconds, something happens. Then you can chain them together, you can start and cancel them, you can start them after some time. This is super useful in so many scenarios. Basically, anytime you need to do some timing logic and you want to do it through code instead of making a separate animation, for that, this function timer class will be super useful and super easy to use. For example, all the cutscenes that I made for my Survivor Squad game, the way that I set up all the timing logic for the characters moving around, for the zombies spawning, for all the text, all those things. Yep, all of that was made using the function timer class. On my recent game, Dinky Gardens, I use very much the same thing. I use this class a lot for pretty much any kind of timing logic, especially for the tutorial, where in there I need some things to happen on specific times, so this simple class was so useful. I'm pretty sure I've used this same class on every single one of my Steam games. Then mouse position is great when you need mouse position, whether in 2D or 3D. The input window is really great if you need some input from the player. Question dialog if you want to ask questions. Tooltip, if you make tycoon management games kind of like I do, then this is super useful. So yep, all of these are super useful, many of these in pretty much any game. And most of these are also super easy to use as well. For example, back here on the Lunar Lander game, over here on the main menu, if I just click on quit, then it's basically just going to quit the game instantly. Whereas normally you want to ask the player, do you really want to quit? So that is super easy, just over here on the main menu UI, instead of just doing application.quit right away. Instead of that, I can go in the question dialog UI window. On this one, I can just show a question, let's say yes, no question. Then for text, do you really want to quit? And then for no action, basically do nothing, so basically an empty lambda. And for the yes action, basically do exactly what I was already doing. So that's it, literally just one line of code. And over here, if I just press on quit, and if there you go, I've got a nice question dialog. Do you really want to quit? If I choose yes, it quits. If I choose no, go back. So yep, I've got a really nice option. Literally just one line of code, and I add the nice question dialog to my game. Or another super useful one is the error detector. That's really great for telling your player that some error happened so they don't go insane when they see that things are not behaving as they should. This one over here contains just a prefab, so I'll literally just drag it onto my canvas. And if I play the game and I disable error pause, just like you would have on a build, a build would not pause your game. So if I go ahead and I play, everything is going fine. I'm going to go and land and see if it triggers an error. And if I go, triggered an error. Now I, as the player, can see, okay, something went wrong. I've got some kind of null reference exception. So I can copy the clipboard and tell the developer. Or another super useful and simple one is this one, the reset UI rect transform. Note how over here in the editor, I've got a bunch of UI windows directly on top of one another. It makes it very hard to actually manage around them. It makes it very hard to actually see through these windows. Over here, I've got a bunch of them. They're all on top of one another. So I've got the stats UI window, the land UI window, the pause UI window. All of these are stacked on top of one another. And if I go ahead and I move them around, okay, now I can see them. But now when I play the game, this one's going to be on the wrong position. Unless, of course, I use the reset UI rect transform. So I just add that component, the reset UI rect transform, and that's it. All of these are the same. So now let's see the pause windows like that, and I hit on playing. And now if I press on the escape key, yep, there you go, now it spawns, and it spawns right down the middle. So that's another super easy thing. I can just move around, move all these windows around. This is basically how I always make my Steam games. I've got all of these windows all over the place. I've got multiple of them. On my game Thinking Gardens, I think I had like 30 UI windows. And if I had them all stacked on top of one another, that would be very difficult. So I just did this. I just moved them around so they are visually separated over here on scene view. And then as soon as it enters into play mode, thanks to that nice utility script, everything goes back onto the origin. So yeah, I'm definitely biased towards my own toolkit. But the reason why I made this is because these tools have generally been very useful for me in my over 1 decade of making Steam games. So I'm sure you will also find them very useful in your own games. Alright, so yep, so these are the top 5 plus 1 bonus assets that I really highly recommend no matter what game you're making. Whether you're making 2D or 3D games, whether they are complex or simple, whether they are shooters, platformers, RPGs, no matter what you're making, all of these assets, all of these will be super useful, so I highly recommend you get them. And right now they're on sale as part of the Unity Asset Store, as part of the Best of Summer sale. They are all 50% off, so if you don't have any of these, I highly recommend you get them quickly. The sale is only lasting for a short while. Check them out with the links in the description. Alright, I hope you find these tools super useful in your own games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.